and you either choose to listen to them or not listen to them based on that, I'm using air quotes, you can't see that, but gimmick.
Welcome to Musing. Every once in a while, my brother George and I would have these conversations about music. Music is our passion, and it's a huge part of our lives, and we decided to share those conversations with you. So if you love music, sit back and enjoy this podcast. Okay, welcome back to Musing. Got my brother on the line.
How we doing?
Good. We got one today that we've been putting off for way too long.
I wouldn't even say we've been putting it off. I think we talk about it every single time, or at least we mention it. But we haven't.
That's what I meant. I think we just waited way too long for it.
Haven't had the actual discussion, I guess. And we started to, and then made sure we stopped in time to record it. So
yeah. So today we're going to do gimmicks, and I think that's where we're going to start off. Is we've talked about gimmicks many times in a couple podcasts before, and I think, every band has a gimmick. That's my stance. I mean, we kind of briefly talked about it before we got on, but I think you actually started me on it too. I was not bought into it until you said something about it that every band has a gimmick.
I don't think every band has one. I think more famous ones have one, and some of them
interesting.
I think some of them and as of late it's tapered off. I think since the 2000s, I think probably in the last 15 years or so, it's been less of a standout thing. And I think it works both ways. I think sometimes it sells the band, sometimes I think it makes the band, sometimes I think it overshadows the music, and sometimes I think it oversells the gimmick, and
the band doesn't live up to the gimmick, basically.
Well, yeah, I think it goes both ways. I think sometimes the band doesn't live up to it. I think sometimes it overshadows the band's a lot better than a cheesy cheesy gimmick.
Yeah. So, well, let's get the elephant in the room out. Let's just go, call out Kiss right away, because that's the obvious.
Right. That's ground zero, I think, for gimmicks.
It is, but okay, so we've already voiced our opinions about how we feel about Kiss and the music and the guitar players, and this is a different view on it. But you got to give them credit for being marketing geniuses, right?
There is nothing. I think I know we've touched on this in other podcasts. There is no. They have everything from pick something. They have Kiss toilet paper, Kiss condoms. They really. I say Gene Simmons, I guess, would claim to be the brainchild behind the marketing thing, and I think that's one that the gimmick overshadowed the music, because the music is average.
Yeah.
Sometimes better than average. They had some, undeniable songs. Rock and roll and I Party Every Day. You can deny it all you want. It's a party anthem. It's a rock and roll anthem, really.
Yeah. If you're gonna pick the top 10 songs that people, go to when they're drunk and ready to scream something, that's gonna be on top of the list. It's hard to deny.
But they're not musically. They're not geniuses,
right?
But business-wise, they are.
But and I want to, if you think about that, though, if you look at the actual marketing side of it, yeah, they've got stuff for everything, but they created stories around characters in their face paint. It wasn't just, hey, I'm going to paint my face with a star on the one eye. They had stories behind them, and I think that was
demon, the cat.
Yeah. Spaceman. Right. It fit because it was something that had never really been done. But it wasn't, without merit. They had stories. They made up alter egos and painted themselves to look like those alter egos.
Right, but I think it was just because I shouldn't say that, because Gorillaz did the same. Nobody knew what this, and
right.
And I say lately, they've been out 15 years probably, but
yeah.
Nobody knew what they looked like, and Kiss, that was a big thing, in the early 80s, I'd say 83 or something. They did the Unmasked, deal, but nobody knew what they looked like. They'd show up at, radio stations or news conferences or press conferences, whatever you want to call it, and they would have bandanas on their face, even without the makeup and stuff like that. And I think it was genius in the fact that they were, the biggest band in the land, and nobody knew who they were. They knew who they were, but they didn't know they could still walk down the street. And I think that anonymity is what played into their
I was just going to say,
reasoning behind it.
Right. And I was just going to say, in today's world, it would be near impossible to, you said the Gorillaz, and, I looked it up. They started in 98, so we're pushing 20 years.
Yeah.
So, that was a stretch even in 98 up until whenever that, we actually started seeing who they were.
Right.
To hide your identity nowadays.
See, like nowadays, I think it's, I want to say come full circle. I mean, not to get off on the anonymity tangent, but nowadays we're inundated with so many bands, so many, internet stars that you could walk past 10 of them on the street and not even recognize them, even if you've heard their music.
True. No, that's true. That's a really good point. But I think part of the gimmick though is that anonymity. I mean,
yeah,
because if the gimmick is going to be out front, that's going to put you behind. I mean, that's basically Kiss did that. That's what they did, is they put the gimmick out front, and then they put themselves backwards and in the closet and in the back shadows.
And again, point and counterpoint, look at the Schoolboy thing for Angus Young.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I consider that a gimmick, and that's what he's known, that he's instantly recognizable because of that.
Well, I guess being anonymous is part of the gimmick then. Part of a gimmick or any gimmick. Let's circle back. So, are you saying, you said this to me, and I wish I had recording on the phone, earlier to say it, but you said to me pick a band, they've got a gimmick.
Yeah.
So run with that.
There's
Nickelback.
Everybody hates them.
Well, that's not their gimmick.
No, but that's when you I'm
true.
Stumbling. When you say a band, that's what I meant by that. Like if I say Guns N' Roses, you're gonna think Axl Rose is an asshole and Slash's top hat.
Yeah.
Whether it's whether that affects the music or not is one thing. If I say Twisted Sister, what do you think? You think of teased hair, makeup, and if I say Van Halen, you think of that red guitar with the white and black stripes on it, and David Lee Roth doing jump kicks and assless chaps. You think of something that I consider, again, and like I said, sometimes it affects the music positively, and sometimes it affects it negatively because it takes away from it.
Well, maybe it's the word gimmick then, because for me, gimmick is something that's self-contrived, that they've put together something or an idea.
Oh, see, I disagree there.
Okay.
I don't think it's all on the band. I don't think it's the band's choice.
Well, I think some of it is.
No, yeah, obviously, like Kiss, if we're gonna use that, or Twisted Sister, but like even in the late 70s, like the New York Dolls and stuff, bands had to do something to get noticed. The Ramones, you think of the leather jackets and the bowl haircuts.
That's true.
There's always something that you think, maybe it's just me.
Well, no, I think that's what we're talking about. That's why we're here, and that's why we do this. We love to talk about this and put this out there and let people hear it and give their opinions. But I have always thought of the word gimmick to be something that you did to get a leg up on the other guy. And you're right. Maybe sometimes it is. It's put on them by the either the media or the genre itself. Like if you're in rock and you decide to put a cowboy hat on, that's going to be obviously counterproductive to what where you are in the music genres.
Right.
So maybe it is something that's both. Maybe it is self-imposed and then media imposed.
And that's what I said. I think it can go both ways. Because
I can see that.
If you say ZZ Top, what do you think? What do you think?
Well,
of?
beards, obviously.
Right. Or I think of the red coupe, the hot rod. But
I think you're the only one that thinks that, though, because I don't.
But you know what I'm saying? There's
Yes, I do.
something there, and that's where this topic intrigued me, because everybody is different. Because if I say um, Johnny Cash, what's his gimmick?
The Man in Black.
Right. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. There's always something that you think that you almost, if you're a music person, that you almost instantaneously think of. If you think Meatloaf, what do you think?
Well, I don't think. What do I think on Meatloaf?
I mean, I think, Bat Out of Hell. I think there's just something, this big fat sweaty guy on stage,
But
and
but is that a gimmick though? I mean that's where I see that's and
I think
obviously we're different on
but
it.
I think you've got like gimmick labeled as a negative faction.
Oh, I'm not saying a negative. I'm just saying that they choose it, not it gets chosen for them. Like obviously, you mentioned Meatloaf, and I honestly couldn't think of anything. But you're right. The album, I guess, kind of the motorcycle coming out, does make me think of that. But when I think gimmick, I think more of something that they've really put a conscious effort into to make their band stand out from everything else.
Yes.
A la Kiss.
But see, I think it can be more subtle. Like, if I say Social Distortion, I think of that little skeleton holding the martini.
See, but again, that's, did that take away from their music?
But that's what I mean. I'm not a huge Social Distortion fan, but it's easily recognizable. That to me that's what makes a gimmick.
So are we going to go to Anthrax? Because that's kind of sacred between us,
There is. I mean, to me, the later you get in music, I think it tapers off, because it was more about the music. Like
Okay.
Kiss, Twisted Sister, so on and so forth, and those that had really big, easily recognizable gimmicks, like that radiates from ground zero, if we're going to use that term.
Yeah.
That Kiss, it was about the makeup. Twisted Sister, I think, overcompensated, because Lord help me, I think Twisted Sister was a great band. I think there was a lot of great music there that got lost in a really unnecessarily, drag show or whatever. I don't even know what they were going for necessarily in that time period.
Right.
But a lot of that through the 80s, I mean, the hair metal bands they kind of clogged that gimmick necessity, because they all had the same gimmick. They all put on eyeliner,
right.
makeup, they all teased their hair up, and they kind of diluted it, I guess. Almost made it where, like, once we transitioned out of hair metal, it kind of got into a more about the music, less about the gimmicks. And that's what I said, like early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, that kind of tapered off. I mean, because if I say Soundgarden, you think more about the music first, but you think, flannel and,
Yeah, but again, that was kind of the same thing as the hair metal.
Right.
It was a lot of those bands came out of there were flannel and
Exactly.
sunglasses on stage and long hair in your face and
exactly, brooding in coffee shops in Seattle, and right. So I think that's where the industry, the business machine of music in the 80s and early 90s kind of diluted that and made it less of a necessity, because to be heard in the 70s and 80s, I mean, you had to get radio play. To be seen, you had to go to a concert. So you had to put on a show. You had to put on makeup. You had to, a la Iggy Pop, you had to, fall on broken glass, or have leather jackets and bowl haircuts. You had to do something to get people to keep coming to the shows, to keep buying the albums. Nowadays, I'm dating myself a little bit, it's getting to the point where it's less of a necessity to have a gimmick, other than you're a great producer. But I think we're touching on it a little bit now. Greta Van Fleet, it's the new Led Zeppelin.
Right, because they sound so much like 'em.
Right. So is that a gimmick? Because, hey, they sound so much like Led Zeppelin, they're easily marketable in a sea of non-marketable music right now.
Yeah, no, I think...
So are we going back to needing a gimmick to get noticed?
Right, and maybe, I mean, but for different reasons. I mean,
absolutely.
You just mentioned the reasons, and I'm not going to rehash it, but when I think of bands like Greta Van Fleet, or if I look at a band like Royal Blood,
right,
in comparison to each other, who are, kind of relatively new bands right now.
Sure.
Greta Van Fleet came out and was instantly a buzz. It's taken, Royal Blood quite a while to actually get into the limelight a little bit,
right,
in the genre, because they didn't have a gimmick.
Well,
I mean, they're gimmicks. They're only two instruments and they're brothers, but
yeah,
I think they're brothers. But I don't know. I'm still going to hold on to the idea of what I think gimmicks are. For me, it's something that they have chosen to do, that they sat down and went, let's do this, or let's make this part of what we do.
I agree.
Like Kiss.
To a certain extent, like the presidents of the United States of America.
But for them, again, I don't, unless you really know what their gimmick is, it's not really known. I mean,
but they
you don't
set out to make that known. They set, I mean, it's in the lyrics of some of their songs, that.
Well, yes.
I mean,
sort of.
Well, if you listen to it, it is. I mean,
it's
3-string,
no
2-string,
guitars.
1-string, no guitar. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
They're not playing no string guitar.
I know that, but that to me is a self-imposed gimmick.
Yeah, well, and again, but then maybe it goes back to how much you push it. Like, obviously, Kiss is going to put it right in your face immediately, and they're going to make that their entire part of their band.
Right.
But if you think of somebody like the Presidents,
or Greta Van Fleet,
it was their gimmick.
Greta Van Fleet has not pushed the Led Zeppelin agenda that everybody else has because of the easy comparison. But
Presidents have pushed it, like you said. They've actually said it in media, and they've actually pushed it in one of their songs.
Right.
And I don't know. Maybe it's the level of push well, let's
see. I think it depends on the level of talent.
Well, that's true.
I do.
Let's take a turn and maybe find some more and see if there's any common thread between them. Like, do you consider Jethro Tull to be gimmick?
Yeah. Because to you instantly think, okay, flute in a metal or heavy rock band, whatever you want to call it. So to me, that defines a gimmick. Something that's easily recognizable that stands them out from the average or from the other bands. What do you think of when you think of Jethro Tull? You think of flute,
right?
Almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
And that's what I think defines. I don't think there's necessarily a common thread because every gimmick has to be different. But I think, I mean. You brought up Anthrax. I think their gimmick was almost fun thrash metal. So,
dude, come on, man. The face.
I know the knot man. Yes, I know. I get that, but I mean that stood them out from. I mean, like if I say Slayer, what do you think?
Pentagram.
Right. You think Antichrist. You think upside down crosses. You think dead skin mask. You think raining blood. It invokes, and is that a gimmick? Is that their life? Probably. Is it a gimmick? Absolutely.
Okay. Because let's go ahead.
Would Slayer be on the radio without thinking of that way of them? Would you ever heard of Slayer?
But hold on, they came at a time where Metallica and Megadeth were like...
Right, and the gimmick separated them.
Okay, so then where does that put a band like Gwar?
Oh, are you kidding me? That's like that's...
I know, I was doing that on
That's
purpose.
a lateral move from Kiss.
Yeah, I know.
That's stage. That's almost theater with music involved.
But again, if you think about that as what we're, trying to tie a common thread through what we're doing, they did that on purpose. They self-promoted themselves.
Absolutely.
They hid themselves behind masks.
So Would you consider that Jethro Tull though, or no?
That's what I said. I wouldn't. For me personally, I wouldn't, because I don't see it as a gimmick. He plays flute.
Sure.
He loves rock. He put those two things together.
Right.
So here's another one, and this kind of even goes in the line of Kiss, but Alice Cooper.
Again, you automatically think you can theater, or what he calls it something. Alice Cooper actually refers to his shtick as something I can't, and it's escaping me right now. But that's exactly what this whole conversation is. But
again,
about.
I think he set out to do that. That's what I'm saying, is I think that it wasn't
right, and
it wasn't something that it was self-imposed. He did that.
I agree, and I keep saying that I think it's two separate. You're using gimmick as a one word, as a one trick pony. I think gimmick can go both ways, and I said I think it can affect it adversely affect the music, and in a good way too, because Alice Cooper, I mean, is Alice Cooper. He's had
shock rock is the word you were looking for.
Yes, there it is.
Yep,
there it is. That's what I'm talking about. There's a level of Alice Cooper's meh. I mean, he's not the music isn't bad, but he's never. I mean, you think Alice Cooper? Name two people that play in Alice Cooper's band that have been there the entire time. There probably aren't two. But
so you got any? Did you research any? Did you look at any other ones just out there, just as out of curiosity?
No. This was strictly from.
Yeah, me too.
From the gut. This was kind of a short. We've been kicking it around in short term. We literally decided yesterday or day before, to actually do this. And I don't think it's that shorts this podcast by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a level of, like I said, all I wanted you to think about as far as this was concerned, or the listeners to think about as far as this is concerned, is your favorite band. Why? Right, what got you started? Was it? Oh, I mean, if you think about anything, Blues Traveler. What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to go to harmonica,
right?
But for me, that's an instrument, though. I don't.
But
I don't see that as a gimmick.
But see, I think that's when it's that much or that infused, much like the flute. I think you almost have to. Don't you have to turn that as a gimmick? Because they got famous because of the addition of the flute, because of the addition of the harmonica. I think that qualifies as gimmick level.
Okay, well, you stepped me back to what's my favorite band and what's their gimmick type thing, and obviously my favorite band is Creed. So, is it just that they talked about religious
God rock? Yeah.
God. Okay, but that's their gimmick.
I think so.
See, I don't. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to separate on this one. This could be like our first podcast where we actually don't have the same opinion.
No,
on
and I think that might be the best one yet. But,
probably.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so if I know you're a huge AC/DC fan. The Schoolboy thing, did that affect AC/DC's music?
No, and that's what I'm saying is I don't think if they consciously set out to do something that it affects their music one way or the other.
Okay,
but I think
the makeup affect Kiss's music?
That's what I'm saying. But I think that they can push that to overshadow the music.
Right. Well, that's what I'm asking.
Right, and that's for lack of better words. Yeah. I think that the gimmick is, if it's a choice for you to do it, but it's also a choice for how hard you push it. Like if Angus Young, they didn't have to push it because, oh my God, they're a good band and fantastic and amazing. Kiss had to push it because they weren't, stellar. They were a good rock band. Again, we talked about that.
Exactly.
We're not taking anything away from their spot in history.
Be careful, you're making my point now. So
I'm making the point that I think that if you consciously do it, you're doing it for a couple of reasons. One of them, you're doing it because you want to accentuate what you're doing.
Okay.
Or two, you're covering up for something else. But
Okay.
I still think it's a conscious thing.
So, okay, but would Jethro Tull be popular without the
No.
flute then?
Who knows? Would he be rock popular? Probably not.
Would AC/DC still be popular because of the music without the schoolboy suit?
I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a hard one.
So the schoolboy suit and the flute are gimmicks. That's what I'm talking about.
But what I'm saying is I don't think because he chose to put a flute in the band that was their choice to say we're gonna make rock music because this is not in rock music. I think he did it because he liked rock music and he played the flute, not as a standout.
Well, intent. Well, that's what I'm seeing. Intent is immeasurable because, like I said, do you think it was Angus's intent to have that deterrent to the music? Because I think the schoolboy thing is actually a deterrent. Because much like the makeup is a deterrent for Kiss, because I think they're without the makeup. I mean, with or without the makeup, they're an average band.
I really think that, I mean, if you're going to go that route with AC/DC, I think that was a crutch that they didn't need. If that's what you're saying, I agree 100%. I don't think it's a crutch they needed, but it was something that they thought, hey, this is kind of funny. Let's just throw it out there, and it stuck.
Right. So is the harmonica a crutch that's needed or not needed in, say, Blues Traveler?
But it's necessity. That there wouldn't. AC/DC would be AC/DC without the schoolboy outfit. Blues Traveler wouldn't be Blues Traveler without the harmonica.
See,
and that's what I'm saying
is my definition of gimmick right there.
But that's two different things.
No, it's not.
Because you can take one away from one and it's still a band.
Right.
You can take one away from the other and it's not going to be a band.
Well, that's what I said. Would Jethro Tull still be popular without the flute? Would they still be Would they be popular without the harmonica?
But it wouldn't be a band, period. Like, it wouldn't be anything. It wouldn't be Jethro Tull. It would be a rock band that didn't have a guy playing flute in it.
Right. Well, that's what I said. AC/DC would still be a band without a guy in a schoolboy suit. So that's where I guess that maybe the technical definition of I know I see what you're getting as far as the instruments involved, but I do think I think anything that brings a certain light to something odd to me is what I consider a gimmick. I.e., if there is a flute in a rock band, it's like, wow, that's different. Or they're singing, they're mixing a lot of religious overtones in their music. That's different than and you either choose to listen to them or not listen to them based on that. I'm using air quotes, you can't see that, but gimmick.
Well, let's do this. Let's circle around to another same topic, different subject. Same subject, different topic. I'm gonna go over the Rolling Stones top 100 artists. And we'll just pick like a couple of the top 10 and and just see if
how long it takes to pick the gimmick.
Right, how long it takes to pick the gimmick, or if it's to stand out immediately.
Okay.
If I can get it to scroll down to number one, I'm gonna actually start at number one on this one. Oh my God, I'm only at 72 and it's AC/DC. That's pretty scary.
That can't be right. 72 in a top 100 rock bands?
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Oh. I'm in the wrong era here or something. Well, I'll go off the list that comes up on Google. So the Beatles first.
John
Haircut.
Yeah, I mean, British Invasion.
But that didn't last very long. A British Invasion, okay. But again, I don't see that as a gimmick because they just brought their music to America.
No, and I said some of it's timing, and I don't think all bands. I think some of them, just the merit, the weight of their talent overshadowed the need for one. And
right.
So, but go ahead.
Well, Rolling Stones.
The Lips. I mean, Mick Jagger.
Yeah, that's automatic.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin. I don't think they really had one. I mean, you could go the Zoso symbol, you could go the actual Zeppelin itself, but I don't think they had one.
Yeah, and that's That's debatable. I mean, I don't think so either. I mean, to say like a standout gimmick, no, not necessarily.
Yeah, Pink Floyd.
I mean, Pink Floyd.
Is the entire album The Wall a gimmick?
Well, I think that, I mean, the I don't know. I just think they're almost a cliche instead of a gimmick. They're in kind of a different zone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that's probably,
but I mean,
pushing it on theirs. But
the psychedelic, I mean, you think psychedelics when you think Pink Floyd. I do, or I don't know if that's a cliche or a gimmick or not. But I mean, when you think Pink Floyd, you think, comfortably numb type of mentality, I guess. But that's kind of a...
well, the next one's Guns N' Roses, and we already kind of talked about them, and it's impossible to say their name without the top hat being part of it. So
right, or Axl Rose being Axl Rose.
Yeah,
I think his attitude is almost their gimmick back in the 90s.
Yep. Where's my list? I lost my list.
Really? They're that much further than AC/DC?
I know.
All right, go ahead.
Lost my list.
Oh.
Well, again, this is just what comes up on Google at the top of the list.
Yeah.
The 100 greatest artists from Rolling Stone. It's loading. Unfortunately, it takes forever. Metallica?
See, I think just you immediately think metal. I mean,
yeah, but
that's not necessarily a gimmick. They're the first popular metal band. I mean, like radio metal, I guess.
Yeah. But I don't see them. I mean, I don't see them as having a gimmick or something that sold them on it. I think the timing was just right on the sound.
No, I think maybe you're going the wrong way on this list. I think you should start at the bottom because I think because the top rock bands I don't think need one.
Well, that's a good point. You know what? I got the 100 for Rolling Stones up, and they actually have Dylan as second, which,
the voice is his gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, scrolling back. Chuck Berry. That's not even fair.
But
I think he did the duck. I think he did the duck walk until the day he died.
I was just say I automatically think of him crouched down and doing the duck thing. Yeah.
Okay. Does Jimi Hendrix have one?
We talked about that for a minute. Yeah. I mean, he's instantly. You automatically think of the flaming. I think of the flaming guitar.
Yeah, but Ace Frehley did it
differently.
Yeah, but
I mean,
still.
Ace Frehley played a flaming guitar, but Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I don't know, the guitar. It's like saying Stevie Ray Vaughan. What's his gimmick? Well, the fact that he was, that guy. I think the best guitar player.
It's funny too because each one of these people that they have on the list, I'm skipping over a couple like solo artists and stuff, but each one of these people they have on the list, they've done a caricature of them, and a lot of them have the gimmick in the caricature.
Really?
Well, I mean, it's just really interesting that they actually took, what almost made them stand out and put it in there as their gimmick.
Yeah,
I'm skipping over a lot of the mainstream bands. They have the Velvet Underground as 19.
The top rock bands?
Yeah, 100 greatest artists. I'm sorry, it's 100 greatest artists, but still seems a little high.
I'm missing something. I've always missed something with them. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. U2.
To me, the Edge and Bono. I mean, that's.
But which one? Do you flip a coin?
Well, I think their gimmick is their political shtick.
Yeah,
that's what always
true.
stood out to me. Is they were. I mean, they're more.
Even from the start. I mean, that wasn't something they evolved into. It was from the start.
Yeah, and I think that was bred from where they came from, and so on and so forth. The political part of that.
The Ramones we already talked about. Yeah. Black leather jacket. It's funny, the picture basically has them all in their black leather jackets, their black leather biker jackets. Yeah. Prince, does he have one or does he have 50?
Well, I mean, I instantly think purple. I think the purple one. Yeah. I think of
the symbol
formerly known as. Yeah, he's just an unspeakable symbol, and yeah, I mean that's.
So this next one's going to bring up a really good conversation. We're about 30 minutes. We go a few more here. So this next one's going to bring up a really interesting point. So does one moment in a band's career become their gimmick?
Possibly.
The Who?
Yeah. I mean, I think, of Pete Townsend smashing guitars.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Exactly where I went too.
And,
I mean,
Keith Moon blowing up his drum set and stuff. I mean, Destruction,
but
I think, was their gimmick. The loudest band in the ever recorded or whatever. And I think the Who is. But Pete Townsend smashing guitars I think that's a gimmick.
That's exactly what I went to. And I mean, it's an iconic video that shows it. The first time, or we were the biggest one.
Yeah.
That everybody sees, and did that turn them into that? Did that turn them into that gimmick? Was that their gimmick from then on?
I think it, much like the Schoolboy thing, I think they threw it out there and it stuck. I think he was in the moment, and then he kind of had to be that guy. I think after that, sort of.
Michael Jackson.
Dude, he is a gimmick.
Hold on. Is it the glove?
The moonwalk, the glove,
Oh, that's what I was saying. Is it the moonwalk or is it the glove? Because he kind of let the glove go after a while, but
love him or hate him for whatever he was, his raw talent, the guy was.
Yeah, I'm not definitely not denying that. I was just kind of curious.
But I think he's probably, other than the Jackson 5, I think he was probably most known for the moonwalk. I think.
Yeah.
That was. Somebody said it was like 35 years ago, just here recently, where he first did that on stage. I mean, his dancing was obviously. That's another tough one to pull. The gimmick card on, I guess, based on talent. But
yeah.
But yeah, I think he's kind of exempt because he's kind of a walking gimmick.
Run DMC.
I think their first mainstream R&B or hip. They're just flat rap.
But I know, but are we going with the Kango, or is that kind of their?
Yeah, the Adidas. I think the Adidas is the gimmick. The floppy.
I can see that. Yeah.
Floppy Adidas and the jumpsuits or whatever. Yeah,
jumpsuits is where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Does Elton John have one, or is it just? Is it talent again that just kind of overshadows it?
Piano Man. I think everybody says, Billy Joel, Piano Man. Elton John. I think just the flamboyancy. Even back from the 70s. He was flamboyantly out there.
Okay, Queen.
You have his voice. I don't even think they're a gimmick. I think
hold on, man, the mustache.
Well, yeah, Freddie Mercury was.
Yeah.
He was. That's what they're known for, but I wouldn't call it a gimmick because guy's voice was.
I still come back to it, man. I just, for me, it's you're not gonna talk me out of this one. For me, it's something that they need to do that's self-imposed.
Right.
I personally don't think Queen has a gimmick. Period.
No.
Okay.
But they're easily recognizable because of Freddie Mercury's voice and so on and so forth. So yeah. I think the line between gimmick and recognizability, is that a word? Being easily recognized is a fine one depending on talent level.
Grateful Dead.
The stoner rock,
skeleton.
But the skeleton, the symbol.
Yeah.
But we consider that a gimmick because I find less than no talent in the Grateful Dead. I have tried over the years. God is my witness. I have tried to listen to the Grateful Dead. I don't get it. Maybe I don't smoke enough weed. I don't know, but I don't get it.
Yeah, it's hard to. But as far as gimmick goes, but I'm going to circle this around. I'll come back to the list in a second, but Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Eddie, but that's now we're talking about separating gimmick from art or from mascot. Kind of going back to Anthrax.
Right, or Megadeth.
Or Megadeth, right.
or Motorhead, or there's a lot. I think I don't. There again, is Eddie for Iron Maiden any different than the Demon for Kiss, other than the fact one is part of the band, and
that's where I separate it.
The other
I think when it's part that, and again it goes kind of back to me not agreeing with the flute. I think when it's part of the band, it's something they had to have done consciously, but if you take it away, there's no band.
Right.
The Police? No, there's nothing on the Police that really stick out, right?
The bass. I mean, Sting is kind of but I don't think that's a gimmick. Again, I mean, that's you take Sting out of the band, there's no Police. So yeah.
Eagles?
Harmony. That's not
that's
not a gimmick. When I think the Eagles, I think harmony. I really do, like vocal harmony.
Did the Beastie Boys have one? I don't think they do.
Yeah, white rappers. I mean,
yeah. Well, okay. So again, they don't have any choice in that one.
Right. I mean, but that's a gimmick. But the talent overshadowed.
Wow, that one's a little bit. That one's a little bit on the edge. That could go either way on that one for me. I mean, doing what you love, no matter what race, creed.
Oh, it's not about race. It's not about race.
No, it is because in the time that they were, coming up.
I'll give you that. And that's why I think that's why it was a gimmick. They turned into a talent. I mean, those guys are were the one is gone, but they set the bar for talent as far as writing in general, and the cohesiveness that those three idiots had and I'm standing myself out in front of everybody else, will never be equaled again.
No, I will 100% back you on that. It's a lot of bands have made marks on the industry. Period.
Sure.
Nirvana, the Beatles, AC/DC, but that changing genres from the get-go.
Sure.
Moving from a punk band into hip hop, rap, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Was a huge leap in the first place.
Right.
But to do it so seamlessly and to make such a mark on the world of music, period. Yeah, they would, you argued last episode about Boston being the perfect band ever. It's questionable for me whether the Beastie Boys don't fall into that for me.
No, it would be difficult to argue that, because and again, it's A, talent, but B, I don't know what other word, the way they gelled, the cohesiveness, the way those three guys, they knew what the other was doing before they did it.
Yep.
And two people to do that is difficult. Three people it will never be
insane
again. Yeah, it won't be.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make sure I leave enough time for this parting shot. It's kind of a weak one this week, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways, because it fits what we're talking about, and it fits the conversation. And I'm just going to kind of throw it at you and see, because I'll give you my opinions afterwards, but Daft Punk.
The whole thing is a gimmick.
But is it even a band?
No, they're DJs. I mean...
but hold on. They put out albums.
Yes.
They have a gimmick.
That's what I mean, but to me, they are a gimmick.
Okay, so does that support or go against what I said?
I think it supports what you said, because if you take them out, there is no band. But I think it also supports what I said, because without the gimmick, there is no band.
Well, that's kind of the same thing, but I don't know. It's
but by being DJs, they are the instruments, so to speak.
Yeah, again, we kind of threw this together short notice because we wanted to put a good episode together, and we've been talking about it for a while. And I didn't want to do too much research. I kind of wanted to go off what we kind of know from our history. But when I did a quick search to see, that was the first one that came up on the list. And I just kind of stopped the list at that point and went, you know what, that's going to be my parting shot. I'm just going to let the rest go. I think it supports a lot of what I felt about what Gimmick is, that they've chosen to do that and make that everything. And that's what I felt about Kiss. I think they chose to put on makeup and make alter egos because they wanted that to be who they were.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Gorillaz.
Yeah, I could see that too.
And the Gorillaz, I mean, were hugely popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, you couldn't turn on...
Yeah, no, there's no denying that. Not at all.
What is it, Damage Inc. or whatever? No, or something.
Yeah, there was a couple songs they had off that album that was really just radio play constant. So.
Yeah, but I mean, so I'll kind of quickly parting shot you back. Is there a band that you think? Well, there both ways. Is there a band that you think that they didn't need the gimmick because the music was so good, and is there a band you think that the music was that bad that they had to have a gimmick to get famous?
Well,
off the top of your head.
I've got one,
okay.
But I'll tell you that I'm going to preface this by saying that I wasn't into all of this person's music, but every time I heard this person's music, it was enlightening to me. Like it made me think differently about music, and it's David Bowie.
Oh, wow.
And I know he had gimmick. I know he had the glam. You know, he was kind of one of the... Yeah, he was one of those.
Deal, yeah.
Exactly. And even went makeup at some points,
sure.
You know, with the lightning bolt and stuff on the face. But I've not found a song of his that I went, God, this is horrible. I've always went, I don't like it, but man, it makes me think twice about things. And I honestly could have never seen his face or known about his alter ego, and probably thought that about his music every single time I heard it.
Wow, that's impressive. I would have never bet that in 1,000 years, but that's truly impressive. I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's when you first asked it, that's immediately what came to my mind, and I had thought about it, you know, months ago when we talked about we stumbled onto the Gimmick again on one of the previous podcasts, and it came up in my head, and I didn't talk about it at the time because I didn't want to get into the Gimmick conversation. But since we're in it, as soon as you asked me that question, it popped back in my head that I know he's got a gimmick. I'm certainly not denying that, and he even pushed that at points in his career. But I think as his career started and got to the middle part where he kind of changed his sound and went more poppy, and then changed his sound and went more, you know, dramatic sounding, and kind of ended his career in a little bit of a rock resurgence. Every spot he was in, I always listened to his music and went, man, this is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And not on deep levels sometimes, but just enough to where it made me think, man, maybe I should think about music a little bit different.
Yeah.
So he's the one for me. You got one that sticks out for you, or?
9 Inch Nails.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed them a gimmick anyways.
Well, the electronica, industrial, I guess. I don't know. And Trent Reznor's. Trent Reznor.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he was the gimmick.
Only because they, much like what you just said about David Bowie, I guess an average fan, but everything I listen to some of it is very strange. But it invokes thought, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best we could hope for in music, to invoke thought and feeling in no matter what your gimmick is, whether it's a harmonica or a flute, or if it's, you know, makeup and hairspray. I think to invoke thought, if it gets you to listen to it, whether you like it or not, it was worth it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Way to tie it up, brother.
Really. I really mean that was my whole thing I was holding on to this whole time about this podcast was it doesn't matter what the gimmick is if it gets people involved and you think, "Oh, that really sucks." It got you there.
That's good. Great point. Great way to end it up, brother. Appreciate it.
So,
we'll tie this one up and then we'll head off to another episode. I think we might have a guest on the next one. We'll see if we can get that to work out. But other than that, I'll at least talk to you in a couple weeks, brother.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite ones anyway. So,
agreed. Have a good one, man.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
We want to talk to you about music, so reach out to us at musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com.
You can also find us on most social media sites by searching Music Musing or George or Craig Seibert, Sybert.
And you can also find us on Twitter as musicmusing_ as well.
Thank you for listening to this Music Musing podcast.